mistreatment of women in the 2000s. Some of our most beloved figures in pop culture have been victims of media scrutiny, but this essay would be way too long if we talked about all the women who the media has ever mistreated. For today, I'm going to focus on the women of the 2000s. The two main topics I'm going to discuss are over-sexualization and body shaming and double standards. In the year 2000, we saw the paparazzi boom, when Us Weekly went from monthly to weekly and started a head-to-head war with People magazine. After this, other celebrity magazines launched to get in on the business. This led to the emergence of a culture where disparaging women in public was not only acceptable, but also a lucrative business. As this grew in popularity, the culture only grew more toxic and unrelenting. The early 2000s is when the media and paparazzi went from annoying to disgusting and brutal. Over-sexualization and body shaming. Women in Hollywood were constantly sexualized and the media was obsessed with talking about how they looked. Many of the headlines plastered on the cover of magazines usually involved comments about women's bodies. One of the media's favorite topics was women's weight and what they wore. An article posted on Today.com in 2007 titled, "Was the media unfair to call Britney Spears fat?" said, "Loud and clear," read the headline in the New York Post, "the bulging belly she was flaunting was so not hot." Was it fair? Did Britney Spears, lest we forget a mother of two, deserve to be held up against the standard of fantastically toned abs sculpted by sessions of 1,000 tummy crunches, or was she asking for it by choosing that unforgiving black sequin bikini? Paparazzi followed celebrities around and tried to get the most unflattering photos of women because they would go for the most money. Women, and especially young women, were often sexualized. Interviewers liked to ask them about their bodies, sex lives, and other personal issues. Here are a few examples. When Britney Spears was just 17 years old, she had to endure this disgusting interview.
Everyone's talking about it.
What?
Well, your breasts.
My breasts.
You seem to get furious when a talk show host comes up with this subject. Okay, in general, what do you think about breast implants? Just in general.
Well, I think
When Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen went on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2004 at 17 years old, the media was already speculating that they had eating disorders, and this is what Oprah had to say.
I know there's a new rumor that's recently surfaced. Has really upset you, right? The one about eating.
Yeah, people are going to write what they want to write. We try not to read the good or the bad because it just kind of comes with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
Either you're too fat, you're too skinny, and people are just going to write what they
What size are you, by the way?
size.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
not sure. I
You're not
see
sure?
girls, and
That's so interesting.
I think that this Whitney Houston interview with Diane Sawyer from 2002 speaks for itself.
Bones. That's real.
Yeah, my bones, yeah. I'm 5'7" and thin. I can understand what you mean.
But that's not just thin.
No, what is it? Diane, tell me. Do you know?
It's scary thin.
I can believe what you feel. I can believe that. But do you really know? Do you really know?
No, you know.
Thank you.
Anorexia.
No way.
They've written it.
No way.
Bulimia.
No way.
That it's because of drugs.
No.
It's disgusting how these interviewers wanted to embarrass these women, and it's even worse when the interviewers are women themselves. The media's obsession with women's bodies has had a drastic impact on women and regular society's health. According to a journal written for the National Library of Medicine, media influence may lead adolescents to internalize patterns of physical beauty, resulting in dissatisfaction with their own bodies when they are unable to match up to these patterns. In the constant search for an ideal body, adolescents may begin to develop risk behaviors for the development of an eating disorder. It's dangerous to talk about women's bodies this way, just like it's dangerous to over-sexualize women, especially young women. One of the most disturbing aspects of this topic is the counting down to female celebrities turning legal. On July 2nd, 2004, Lindsay Lohan turned 18. It was a date that men obsessed over. They ran to internet forums and shock jock radio shows to spew about how they couldn't wait until it would be legal to do what they were obviously already doing, fantasizing about having sex with a teenager. During the Rolling Stone interview less than a week after her birthday, the interviewer had to make a reassurance with Lohan about her breasts and if they were real. He also had to do some fact-checking, which involved a goodbye hug. He also said that it had finally become socially acceptable to note that the redheaded child actress was hot. Here's Natalie Portman's speech from the Women's March in 2018 about her experience with the Turning Legal countdown and the impact that it had on her career.
I was so excited at 13 when the film was released and my work and my art would have a human response. I excitedly opened my first fan mail to read a rape fantasy that a man had written me. A countdown was started on my local radio show to my 18th birthday, euphemistically the date that I would be legal to sleep with. Movie reviewers talked about my budding breasts in reviews. I understood very quickly, even as a 13-year-old, that if I were to express myself sexually, I would feel unsafe, and that men would feel entitled to discuss and objectify my body to my great discomfort.
There is a pervasive narrative that girls are ticking sexual time bombs, that once they reach 18, it's free reign for all kinds of abuse. Coming of age for boys is a beer with your father. For girls, the rite of passage is warding off unwanted sexual attention from men old enough to be your father. This narrative is unfortunately still relevant today for young women in pop culture like Kylie and Kendall Jenner, Billie Eilish, Olivia Rodrigo, and pretty much every other young girl who steps onto the scene. Double standards are something that women have faced since the beginning of time. Women are forced to be careful about how they perceive themselves to the world because of the criticism they may face. Meanwhile, men can pretty much say or do whatever they want without anyone batting an eye. One of the best examples of double standards in the early 2000s is Justin Timberlake. When Christina Aguilera went on the Justified and Stripped tour with Timberlake in 2003, she says that she faced unfair double standards in comparison to him. In her early 20s, Christina had become known for her proud expression of her sexuality through her lyrics and music videos. She wanted her Stripped album to embrace every different part of being a woman, from feeling empowered and strong to owning her sexuality, and not from what men thought it should be.
People that got it then, but there was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of double standards with it, and there was a lot of because I went on tour with Justin. We did the Strip Justified tour, and there were things where I was just like, why is it okay for him and not okay for me? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's just like I was constantly pushing back, and my way. I mean, it was so inappropriate sometimes, the things that were asked about that era.
Timberlake has been on the better end of more double standards, like when Janet Jackson was blacklisted from Hollywood when Timberlake exposed her breasts during the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show. She was disinvited from the Grammys later that year while he performed at them. Or when his infamous relationship with Britney Spears ended and she was constantly vilified while he was praised just for sleeping with her.
That said, you broke his heart. You did something that caused him so much pain, so much suffering. What did you do? On a popular morning drive radio show in New York promoting his album, he has a kind of gleeful confession about their very private life.
Hot 97, the Strong Buckwell Morning Show. Justin Timberlake is in the house. And I just want to ask you one question. Did you Britney Spears? Yes or no?
Oh, man.
Come on, man.
Okay, I did it. No,
It was a really weird time. There was talk about what we did together and really sexually and stuff, and I just felt very exploitive and very weird.
Justin Timberlake has moved on from all these incidents and still has a successful career. He was invited to perform again at the Super Bowl years later, while I'm sure Janet Jackson won't be invited ever again. While there are countless examples of double standards in the media in the 2000s, Timberlake is probably the most infamous. In conclusion, the women of the 2000s were severely mistreated by the media for reasons like sexism, racism, fat phobia, and the list goes on. It affected so many of us in different ways. It taught men that it was okay to treat women like objects, and it destroyed women's self-esteem, leaving us wondering how in the world we were supposed to look and act for it to be acceptable in society. While the media has gotten better at how they treat women in magazines, interviews, and the music, TV, and film industries, the end of the 2000s brought the rise of social media, which is an entirely different game.